You're listening to the OCD Stories podcast, hosted by me, Stuart Ralph. The OCD Stories is a podcast dedicated to raising awareness and understanding around obsessive-compulsive symptoms. I do this through interviewing inspired therapists, psychologists, and people who have experienced OCD. Welcome to the OCD Stories.
Hello and welcome to episode 500 of the OCD Stories podcast. My name is Nami Ralph. I'm Stuart's wife. I'm doing the introduction today because unfortunately Stuart has a sore throat, so here I am doing it on his behalf. Episode 500, what a milestone. I remember when he first began the podcast, which will be 10 years ago later this year, and he's released an episode every Sunday over these 10 years. Every Sunday. I've honestly never known such discipline. It's been very inspiring to witness his journey. And the milestone of reaching episode 500 is truly amazing. We're unbelievably proud of him. So for episode 500, Stuart decided to mark the occasion by doing something different and recorded this milestone episode while hiking in the Brecon Beacons National Park in Wales. On the hike, he reflects on his and the podcast journey, speaking directly to you all. He gets a bit panty at times, as you can imagine, being on a hike and climbing a couple of mountains, so he sends his apologies on that. Time lapses are marked by running water, and here is a pre-recorded advert by Stuart about the podcast's partner, OCD.
And thanks to our podcast partners, OCD, if OCD is interfering with your life, OCD can help. They're licensed therapists, specialise in exposure and response prevention therapy, the most proven therapy for OCD. With OCD, effective treatment that is 100% virtual is available for children and adults with OCD. And most members can get started within 7 days on average. No hassle, just real science-backed help and support between sessions. Begin your journey at nocd.com, or I'll put the link in the episode description.
Thanks so much for listening. It means loads. Stuart really hopes you enjoy this episode walking with him through the wonderful Brecon Beacons. Without further ado, here is Stuart.
So welcome to episode 500. I don't know how to start this. I'm currently travelling as opposed to usually sitting on a seat recording this. It is almost 5 a.m. So when thinking about what to do for episode 500, I was like, do I record another interview? Do I get someone I've never had on? Some, big name, whatever that means, celebrity, or someone that would be, fascinate everyone, or would I do some kind of format? I was going to get the listeners to you guys to leave messages and stuff and edit that all together. But I thought I might do something like that for episode around, the actual 10-year mark, which will be later this year. So I thought, well, it's been 10 years almost. It's been 500 episodes. It's been a lot of work for me. It's been wonderful. It's been so meaningful, which hopefully came across in episode 498 when Johnny interviewed me. It has been a lot of work. So I thought, well, why didn't I do something for episode 500 that is something I would really enjoy doing, something new, something exciting, and what do I like? What don't I get to do that much anymore? Well, let's go on little adventures. Adventure is one of my values, but I'm not someone who is into massive adventures. I'm not sure I have the bravery levels for that. I'm sure I could push and encourage myself to get up to that, but it's not necessarily something I have a desire to do. But I love sort of mini adventures. Or I read a book years ago by Alistair Humphreys called Micro Adventures. These are little adventures, in theory, we can all do. Like he came up with a 5 to 9 adventure, so you leave work at 5 p.m, go on an adventure, come in at 9 a.m. I did that once. I went camping, slept under the stars, campfire, all of that with a friend. Got the train in at 9 a.m. for work, stinking of campfire smoke, so I'm sure everyone hated me on the train. But what an incredible adventure. That was so fun. And that was just in a weeknight. So along those lines, I've got up. It's, like I said, I think 5 a.m. heading to South Wales. Shout out to all my Welsh listeners. Thank you for listening, and everyone else, of course. And I thought I would climb Penny Fan, which is the tallest mountain in the Brecon Beacons, and maybe a couple of the other mountains that are right close by it. And while I'm climbing them, reflect on the podcast, on my time doing it, and hopefully some interesting stuff comes out for you. I also hope that as I walk, the microphone picks up all the nature sounds, and that's relaxing for you. I also know my voice is struggling a bit. Maybe it's 5 a.m. I also had a bit of a sore throat recently. Part of me felt like, just don't record it. What if it's annoying for the listeners, blah, 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 blah. All that mind chatter that comes along. This isn't OCD for me, but that mind chatter that does ultimately come along with OCD is similar. We all get that voice, whether it's I'm in an OCD episode, whether it is just, self-doubt, inner critic. We all have that inner voice, and in the same way, I'm just going to notice that and accept that my voice isn't perfect right now. That sucks. It is what it is, and I'm going to notice any of the doubts, worries, thoughts that come up with this, that the podcast is going to sound terrible. Maybe it will, but hopefully I'll have fun along the way, because I'm living a value of mine, which is adventure or micro-adventure, freedom, getting out and about, exploring, doing something creative is a value of mine. Thanking you guys, appreciation, giving back is all a value of mine. So, yeah, I'm going to live by that value regardless. So I don't know how this is going to come out. Thank you for listening. Hopefully it's good. And if it's not, I tried. And that's what I really put a lot of my pride in, is effort, not outcome. So thank you for being along with the journey. I'll check in soon. And here we go. The sun is now coming up, which is really pretty. Sunrise is super early in the UK in the summer. It's about 5:15. I can also see the moon in the sky. It's almost a full moon, maybe a day off. So that's pretty cool to see. And just realising how good it is driving this early, because there's no cars and it's just through the countryside. It's beautiful. I guess I was just reflecting in my mind about, often you'll hear on the podcast, people will say, oh, you don't know how much it's helped me, or therapists will say, I hear it from my clients all the time, how it's really helped them. And sometimes I feel my reactions to that are quite muted. And part of that is me just trying to be humble. And part of that is me not really grasping it, because I'm just someone talking into a microphone right now by myself. Usually it's me talking to a microphone with one other person. So there's no grasping maybe the impact the podcast has had, because I think I said in episode 498, I said I wanted to do it to get answers, and if anyone listened, that would be awesome, because that would help them, but I didn't expect tons of people to listen. So it's not something I really think about, and even when I do think about it and try and think about it, I can never really grasp it. The only time I can is when I go to conferences and I meet you guys and you tell me, and I can see it in the person's eye, like I believe them, and that really impacts me in a good way. It makes me sort of tear up thinking about it. But beyond that, it's very fleeting, and then it's gone, and then I can't really grasp. So I guess I just wanted to explain that, if you're ever wondering. Maybe it doesn't come across that. Maybe that's just entirely I'm in my own head thinking what you might be thinking. Well, missed on the field there. That's amazing. But yeah, maybe I'm in my head, but maybe you guys haven't picked it up. But at least it gives you an insight of what goes on in my head in those moments. And I guess I just wanted to clarify, like, I can't truly comprehend it, and maybe there isn't a way of truly comprehending it, but I am on some level cognitively understand it, and truly grateful, and it's a privilege of my lifetime to be able to have that as part of it. And you guys listening and saying this stuff, it gives me that privilege, and I am truly grateful for that. Gratitude around the podcast is not something I have struggled with. I am truly grateful for the podcast, even when I'm not grateful or ungrateful for other things in my life, the podcast is something I've always luckily been able to hold on to and been grateful for the impact. And whenever I finish it, I have no plans yet, but whenever I finish it, I will hopefully always look back on it with just extreme fondness and gratefulness for the impact it has had. Not even the impact I've had, I say the impact it has had, because for me, in my mind, it's something beyond me now, which is amazing. And time has passed, I promise. I've just been reflecting on what I said just now, a while ago, and something that came to my mind is something I don't really share on the podcast, but I just want to acknowledge that I always thank you guys, and I always deeply mean it. But I maybe never acknowledge the situation, the burden, the pressure you're going through with OCD, but also life. You're more than just OCD, all the other stuff that no doubt may be going on in your life, or has gone on in your life, especially if you listen to the last 10 years. At times we have other stuff going on that burdens us, weighs on us, causes probably as much pressure as OCD, and more in some cases. You know, some really tough life situations that can happen, and I just want to acknowledge that, you know, wherever you are, geographically and emotionally, spiritually, mentally, I do think about that. I don't often acknowledge that, but I just wanted to highlight that here, that I know that many of you, all of you, are going through some kind of battle. Maybe you're just here to learn, but you know, many of you and some of you are going through some really tough stuff right now. So yeah, just to acknowledge that. I see you. The podcast is me indirectly acknowledging that. I do it. I continue to do it. I've continued to do it through the tough times of my own life, because I know it's been helping, and that's why I'm a therapist. I want to help. So podcast is my way of helping a lot of people in one go. And doing the podcast, and me continuing to do it, because it's not always smooth sailing, is me acknowledging your pain and suffering. That's why I keep it going. If I thought you guys were all good, I would have just stopped the podcast and done more, I'm going to say enjoyable things, but more like things that align with my hobbies. Yeah, me keeping up with the podcast is me indirectly acknowledging what you guys go through day to day. So I just wanted to verbally highlight that. You know, I see you guys, and you know, keep at it, keep learning, keep pushing, keep trying. And yeah. And while I'm recording, just wanted to acknowledge Eddie Jenkins, who, you know, I can't remember when he did it, but he composed the intro and outro music for this podcast. I think after maybe around 100 episodes he composed it. And I think that really added something, and now it's the theme tune, so to speak, of the podcast. Eddie is a wonderful producer and composer. Hopefully, Eddie, that's done you right, those terms. He has been a part of some big songs in the UK, big hit songs in the charts. And he's recently, over the last few years, produced a few sort of piano, sort of chill out music. I don't know how to describe it. I'll link to those, but just wanted to shout out Eddie again. I really appreciate him doing that for the podcast. That was awesome. So thanks, mate. And yeah, I guess the other thing is Jess, he's been on the podcast a few times. She even guest hosted one when she interviewed Chrissy years ago. Jess is a good friend of mine now. Jess, the reason I'm mentioning her now is we actually, when Jess and I did the 3 Peaks Challenge, which is where you walk the 3 highest mountains in the UK and drive between them in 24 hours. And we did that. When did we do that? I don't know when we did that. Like 6-7 years ago. And I had a more clunkier setup with more handheld microphones. Where I've got lapel on currently, where I was interviewing her at times on the different mountains, and we did an episode So I'll link in that to the show notes. But so it's not the first time I've actually recorded on a mountain. So just shout out to Jess. Just walking across a stream or a river. Just got to the Brecon Beacons National Park. Starting the trail. So you might start to hear some gravel. Shouldn't hear too much water now, other than that little bit. It's amazing here. I love Wales. Wales is so beautiful. I've climbed this mountain quite a few times. There's a well-worn path you can hike up. Anyone ever has a chance to get to come visit Wales, it's a great country with great people. And not too big, but there's a lot going on. I think my challenge in this episode is to not pant too much, because my heart rate is going to be pretty elevated. But yeah, just thinking 500 episodes, so obviously it started with me interviewing therapists, which I've continued to this day, which has been amazing to learn so much personally as a sufferer, person with OCD, and then now as a therapist I learn a ton. As therapists we have to have supervision, clinical supervision, and I have that. I have a couple of clinical supervisors that make sure I'm kind of doing the right things, and I can ask questions to them if I'm struggling. But in some way, in a kind of non-official capacity, the podcast is a huge clinical supervision for me, and I hope that is the case for the other therapists listening, and for those of you who lived experience of OCD, I hope it helps you learn a lot from these clinicians and how therapy should be done, or pick up new insights that can help you. And that's my continued goal with the podcast, to cover all different topics, keep exploring. So I very much see the podcast as an exploration. Nice stream here, hope you can hear that. Yeah, so an exploration, but also covering the tried and tested ERP, understanding that more, getting the most out of that. We'll continue to do that too. You might see things change as I learn new therapies. I might bring that in. I've been doing some training ICBT, so you might hear me talking about that a little bit more, how maybe I'm integrating or using it standalone, my thoughts on it and all of that. So yeah, I guess we'll continue exploring and continue the tried and tested. And then the story episodes, so many, hundreds of story episodes, and I'm so grateful for everyone that's shared their story, the bravery, the honesty, the openness. I felt really seen in their stories, so I hope you guys have too. Just credit to them for coming on, and I know so many more people have applied through the form, which is currently closed on the website, but there's just too much demand versus the space I have in the weekly slot. So I just want to acknowledge you, whether you've been on the podcast or you've just applied wanting to be on. Thank you so much. I know that your stories make a huge difference to people's lives. So that's incredible. So thank you all for coming on. And with the stories I although I don't cover themes so much in the therapist episodes, I try and cover them in the story episodes. That's the way I try and achieve that. So hopefully the story episodes have touched on your themes, but OCD is so varied. It's so varied. The themes are literally almost endless. It's anything the brain can conjure up to kind of scare you, trick you, get you to worry about. So even if I did focus on themes, I would be here for another 100 years, I think, trying to cover all the variations, and that might not even cut it. But it's wild to think how the guests have changed over the years, and my thinking has progressed, and who knows where it's going to go in the next couple of years. Let's see, but I'm excited and hope you've enjoyed it along the way. I think I mentioned it earlier, so maybe I'll ponder on gratitude for a bit, because I think day to day I get so caught up in my work as a therapist, running my business as the centre, the podcast, and then on top of that being a parent, partner, you name it, all the other stuff. Also trying to have time for myself, my values, my goals, outside of career stuff. And I think I forget to be grateful. And that's probably throughout my life. I've maybe only found I could be grateful when things were like all really aligned and really good. But actually, I think we can be grateful and be in pain. I think, it doesn't have to be either or, it can be and. And being grateful for something, or many things, doesn't take away from the suffering, from the pain. It doesn't discredit that or belittle it. I think if anything, it just can help us carry that load a bit easier, because we realise it's not all entirely shit. There are some good things. Just practicing it now, like on a really simple level. I'm in nature. There's a bit of blue sky. I'm grateful for that. The sun has just peaked over one of the mountains, which is really nice. So much so I had to put sun cream on and my sunglasses. There's awesome sheep around. Just be able to hear the crunch under my feet. It all sounds silly, but these are all things day to day I would just ignore and have done. But actually, whenever I do practice gratitude, it just makes my life so much better. And there were times I probably wouldn't have been able to practice gratitude because maybe the load was too heavy. Maybe I couldn't have done it then. But I think there's a lot of times in my life that my load was somewhat heavy and I still didn't practice it, and I think I maybe struggled more because of that. I think that's why I like compassion-focused therapy, because it teaches us to bring in that inner compassionate voice in the midst of pain and struggle. And that compassionate voice is not trying to mute the pain, it's not trying to take it away, it's just trying to bring in a more caring part of us to help us, as we all want that friend next to us that's saying, come on, you got this. I know it's hard, I know you're suffering, I'm sorry, but keep going, you got this. Man, you got this. Versus the inner critic or OCD, which might well be like, oh, you loser, what are you doing? You can't do it. Oh, there you go, you failed again. It's just, we have that voice, as so many of us do. It is harder to go on. It is harder to keep pushing, try again, all of that stuff. So the more we can nurture the inner compassionate voice, and maybe gratitude's a part of that, life gets a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but I will, gets a bit softer. Pain is still there, but we've got kind of a friend by us, except for this time that friend is us, it's you, it's your own mind. And the more we can tap into that inner compassionate voice over time, I think the inner critic, the OCD voice, all of that naturally has less ground to stand on, because when it rises, the inner compassionate voice rises up and meets it there with warmth, strength, resilience. Anyway, so that's, take it for what it is. It's me maybe more just reflecting on my own life and needing to be more grateful. And I am grateful, but I think day to day, noticing the simpler things that I miss and take for granted, and actually I'm incredibly lucky to have, and maybe in the future there'll be the things I miss, the things I never pause just to appreciate the everyday. This is cool. The sheep's just walked in my path. Oh, there you go. Hello. I'll wait here a second to catch my breath and make sure he doesn't ram me. He's gone. Just to continue, I think, from gratitude, I think I want to caveat, obviously
there's some people in deep survival mode at the minute from OCD or familial stuff or stuff that's really, really bad. In that case, just more compassion, look after yourself, get through it, head down, speak out, reach out to people, and then as things are less in survival mode, then I think maybe it's easy for people to be a bit more gratitude. I just know that when I left survival mode, I still didn't practice it, so maybe that's why I'm saying this. I'm thinking about it as a therapist. I rarely, if ever, bring up gratitude with my clients. It's not something I discuss with them. Maybe I should, I don't know. I just go more on the self-compassion and getting people to raise that voice, because I think self-compassion is something we can bring in much harder times. Because I think gratitude, so over time my clients just naturally figure it out and they start to show more gratitude. I think it's once that those epiphanies have kind of worn off, I think gratitude, that's when it becomes a skill. Like I'm having to sort of think about and practice now. It's not something necessarily that comes easy for me. Maybe it would if I practiced it more, made more of a conscious effort, but yeah. So I guess, if you're obviously in survival mode, take what I say with a massive pinch of salt, because maybe that's not right. Surviving's the priority, obviously. But I think as people get out of survival mode, I think gratitude can be a skill that can be really beneficial for our mental health, and just appreciating the everyday, which we can easily miss. Like, speaking of gratitude, there's another mountain to the right of me, and I just heard this big whinny from a horse. I was about to do the impression. Anyway, I look up, and the sun's coming over that mountain, so you can barely see it. And there's just this... you can see the outline of a horse. And now looking up at it, there's like 7 of them. But it was just one. It was just so, majestic. Not to sound lame, but now seeing like 7 of them. I never see wild horses. I have done, but I haven't seen them for a long, long time. So, goodness, maybe something about novelty, mini adventures, getting out and about. Obviously, you know what that does to the brain, and novelty seeking and new things and variety, and especially very good for like low mood. That's obviously what behavioural activation is, and CBT is getting people out and about, doing things that give them a sense of reward, achievement, meaning, novelty. This is awesome, just looking up at them now. I took a picture of one of them. It's probably not very good. If it is, I'll put it on social media. Okay, I'm getting near the summit, or fan, as the Welsh say, which is summit of a mountain, so Penny Fan. So most of these mountains, if not all, have fan on them, at least by the summit of them. So I'm trying to block the wind, so bear with me, I am up a mountain. But maybe probably one last thing on gratitude, maybe not knowing me, but the thing that always hits me whenever I hike mountains is, one, they are arduous and it hurts your calves and legs and you get out of breath and all of this stuff, but I'm not finding it too bad today, which maybe means I'm doing alright in my workouts. But historically it's always been, my mind's been kind of saying, how much longer, this is tiring, I don't want to do it. And actually, just a reminder, sometimes you do need to stop. You see everyone on this mountain every sort of 5-10 minutes stopping, turning around and looking at the view, and maybe that aligns with gratitude of just pausing and looking. Maybe that's where mindfulness comes in recovery. Of one, being mindful of our thoughts and feelings, and so we don't get hooked and attached into them and buy into them, and then obviously do a load of compulsions, but generally with just our life, just pausing and soaking it in, the kind of beauty of it all. If you are in a place currently where it's like that, obviously again, if you're in survival, I guess it might not matter where you are, how beautiful it is, but for those aren't in that place, it's useful for me to just be reminded sometimes and just stop and look, not just when I'm on a mountain, but day to day.
because I'm so rushed day to day that I don't, and maybe that's a real shame, and something that I personally need to work on. Sharing, should it relate to anyone? Anyway, let's get to the summit. Okay, so I just summited Pen y Fan, which I believe is the tallest mountain in the Brecon Beacons. The tallest mountain in Wales is Mount Snowdon in the north of Wales. So yeah, I'm going to continue walking now to the next, to another mountain, and then the one after that is called Fan y Big. That's Fan y Big. So if you've got a 5-year-old sense of humour, like me, you might find that funny. Depending on which side of the Atlantic you are on, that word means very different things. Fan just means the summit of a mountain here in Welsh, in Wales. And so Pen y Fan. So I'm not sure why it's Fan y Big. I'm not sure why they put the summit before the mountain for big. But there you go. So we're en route there. And I don't know how clear this audio is coming out, but I guess thinking about like the next directions of the podcast, and I'll keep following my nose, but also what I'll do is I'll create a form and I'll put it in the show notes wherever you listen to this, and also on the website of the show notes of this particular episode, and it will be a short form thing, so you won't be able to write much. But if you have a guest suggestion, if you have a topic suggestion, a theme suggestion, anything like that, please pop it in that form, and I'll close it in a month's time from the date of this going live, and I will look through it all and I'll take them seriously, and I'll try and fit in as many of them as possible over the coming couple years. Obviously I won't be able to cover it all, but yeah, if you have a topic suggestion, then leave it in 1 or 2 sentences in that form, and I'll get to that in about a month. I think something I also really notice whenever I come hiking is just the community. Everyone's there for each other. If you need something, they'll be there to help, because they know the stakes of you needing something and not getting it when you're on a mountain. But also, you just walk past everyone says hello, or how you doing, I don't know, or at least where I live, it's not unfriendly, but people don't do that. Definitely don't do it that often in London when I used to live there. Maybe that's not too unfamiliar for others listening to this. But I think there's something that, I think I mentioned in episode 498 with Johnny, community, network, all of that was really important for my recovery. Not feeling alone, having my story heard. And that, that's very much like the OCD camp. The reason I really like that, it's a chance for people to really share their story in a held space, and be heard and seen. And, support groups do that, going to conferences do that, online support groups do that, so it doesn't matter where you are. As long as the support group offers you a space to share, I think that can be really important in feeling seen and heard, especially if you've got people around you that don't get it or don't want to get it. That can feel really isolating. So yeah, I think just being on this mountain reminds me of the friendliness and kindness of strangers, which I think you get in the OCD community as well. So it's not just on mountains. I'm just sitting on a rock here, between Pen y Fan and Fan y Big, and realising that probably the Welsh maybe pronounce that mountain differently. So sorry if you do in Welsh. But between the two mountains is beautiful. Like, I got surrounded by sheep. I don't know if those are crows or birds of prey. I think they're crows. I'm not sure they're quite big enough. But they're awesome. You can hear that. It's a blackbird, I think. A massive one. But I guess for me this is reminiscent, because I came here in 2015, early 2015. And I was raising money for Centrepoint, which is a young homeless charity here in the UK, and great charity. And I wanted to walk the entire length of Wales from Cardiff to the very top. And I think the route I picked was like 161 miles,
which in the grand scheme of things isn't that far. I was trying to do it in 7 days though, so it worked out quite a hefty walk. I think the first day we did about a marathon or just over. It was me and a friend, and we got 2.5 days in, and I called it because I had blisters on my feet. I underestimated the heat, especially walking through the mountains, and it was hard at times. Wales can be very rural, and I was finding it hard to get in enough water. I had like these special tablets that like you can put in to drink river water, although it didn't taste very good, but obviously killed any germs or anything. But even that, we couldn't find too many streams once we got out of the Brecons. And we were wild camping as well, so we were carrying, other than food, pretty much everything on our back. So I overestimated, I packed too much, and I underestimated the landscape. It was way hillier than I thought, especially in the middle of it, which is beautiful, but not when you're trying to walk all the way through it. But I think the biggest takeaway now sitting here is back then, 10 years ago, I hadn't really... I'd done a bit of therapy at that point, but I hadn't really learned any skills for dealing with my mind, my thoughts, my worries. So although it wasn't really OCD that was bombarding me on that trip, when things got hard, my brain just couldn't deal with it, and I called it a day. Whereas now I wonder if I would use my skills to be able to keep myself going, because I had a few blisters. They weren't bad enough to stop, I think. It's easy in hindsight, right? But I don't know, I guess the reason I'm bringing that up, one, it's nice for me to reminisce, but two, on my failures, but two, I guess just to highlight the importance of building a toolkit, that yes, I couldn't walk Wales then, but I would give it a really good go now, I reckon, and I would get way further. Whether I'd complete it or not, I don't know, but I would get way further, and yeah, I could help myself using my skills from ACT, mindfulness, even ERP, self-compassion, all of that to keep myself going. And I got in my head so many times on that trip. I remember one time my friend looked at me and said, I've never seen, this was later actually, he said, I've never seen a person more broken than you in that moment, because just the sheer look on my face, and I felt utterly hopeless. Because I was also dealing with OCD at that point, although it wasn't bombarding me on the trip. My life up to that point was. So yeah, I just want to highlight that the importance of building a really strong toolkit and skill set, and it doesn't come overnight. It took me years to develop that, but now, I can do this mountain. I'm sitting here really peacefully, and even walking when it gets hard, I don't get in my head, oh, it's too hard. I can keep moving without it bothering me so much. So I guess I just want to share, one, the difference time makes, and two, the importance of learning skills and tools for OCD recovery, and practice them. Don't expect them to come overnight. Practice. And over time you will see, hopefully, a difference. To deal with OCD, life, other tricky thoughts, because it's all tricky thoughts and feelings. So I just wanted to share that. It changed massively for me, but it took time, and it took me practicing the skills. Learning them first, obviously, and practicing the skills. Good therapists can help with that, but also if you listen to this podcast, we'll be dropping clues all throughout the episodes on skills. The rumination and worrying chapter in the second edition or new edition of Russ Harris's Happiness Trap. In that chapter, there's a few skills like dropping anchor, urge surfing, and maybe something else, or dipping in and out of the stream. Those 3 skills are really useful for dealing with the mind and getting some distance from it, being more mindful, coming back to the present moment, accepting what is. There's some skills to get you started. But I just wanted to share that reflection from my own life. It was should have been such a great trip, but it turned out to be quite dark, and only dark because my head was dark in my head. It wasn't dark from the actual trip, My perspective was dark, and now I don't think it would be. It would be grueling, don't get me wrong, but I think the tools are what would get me through. It's It's weird, it was so windy earlier. Now it feels like completely still. And I'm right near the top of this summit, or fan. Oh, there's the wind as I speak. It comes back. Let's go. I don't know how trail runners do it. Whew, maybe one day. Oh. Just thinking more, I was thanking my heart a second ago for getting me this far, because I need it to climb these mountains, so I just wanted to thank it. I think sometimes giving thanks is maybe a more palatable way of practicing gratitude. Like obviously maybe the people that look after us, help us, care for us, anyone that's done something for us, I don't know, thanking our own body like I did. Maybe thanks is a more palatable gratitude, and that's something I can personally integrate. That's why I think I'm thinking about this so much. It's just something I'm terrible at, and maybe you're listening to this and thinking, duh, this is obvious and easy, and that's awesome. But I'm just sharing in case it relates to anyone. Oh, this view. Okay, I'm at the summit now. It's amazing. I'll take some video and hopefully I'll share all this on social. Most of it will probably be on Instagram, the OCD Stories. Yeah, I guess reflecting, I didn't realise how much I needed this today. Just getting out in nature, pushing my body a bit, clearing my mind, getting some solitude, which for me I find useful here and there. I guess it's nice. I don't often stop to reflect on what do I need beyond the obvious. And a walk in the mountains isn't something that will naturally pop to my head, so it's nice to do it. And I wonder what else there is. I should be popping in every so often, even if it's once a year, once every 2 years. Maybe pose the question to you as well. What fills you up, rejuvenates you? Even though physically I'm obviously knackering myself, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So, yeah. It's really hard for me to reflect on the podcast on the sort of 9.5 years. 500 episodes, 7-point-something million downloads globally, which is so weird to think about, because obviously when I started, I just wanted a few people, and then when I had like 3,000 to 4,000 people, like in over a few months listen, or maybe it was 4 months, 5 months, something like that. I was so happy with that. And now I'm well beyond 7 million. It's really hard to grasp, I was so happy at 4,000, and it's really hard to grasp that number. Poor beetle. Let me flip it over. Come on, buddy. There you go. Yeah, there he goes. It's really hard for me to reflect on it. And 9.5 years of time, it's a whole decade almost. And I've changed so much. I've become a therapist. I run my own practice. I supervise other therapists. I've done this podcast for 10 years. I got married. I had a kid. So much has changed in my life. So much. More than I ever could have ever imagined. The podcast has helped me personally so much. Knowing it's helped some of you so much has helped me also so much. Which is awesome. It's just really hard to pull out. I don't want to pull out individual episodes, because I did that in the one I did with Johnny in 498. And to be honest, it all merges in. I want to do it justice and give you something really enjoyable to listen to. But I don't know. I've always taken it week by week. I've always just get through 1 week, next episode. Next episode. And maybe I should have stopped and enjoyed it a bit more. But I needed to do that to get it done. That whole journey of 1,000
miles begins with a single step, right? Lao Tzu, I think he said it. It's so true, right? I was just focusing on each single step, and maybe that's a metaphor for recovery. Just focus on your next step. Don't worry about anything else. What's the next thing you got to do to put you in a better direction? And that's what I did with the podcast, and followed my interests along the way. At times I got pulled off track and didn't trust my gut with things, or didn't follow my bliss, my interest, and the podcast got stale or boring. And the last few years, maybe a bit longer than that, I've gone back much more following my interests, and I think it's been good. But yeah, I just it's been too big, too long for me to break it down. It's such a body of work now. I guess all I can really say is I'm really grateful for it, for the work I put in, and you guys listening. And every time I meet one of you and you maybe tell me how the podcast has impacted you, that allows me to reflect, and that allows me to really bring it all together in my mind. Beyond that, it's just this squish of time. But in that squish of time, there are so many great memories, the people I've met, the events I've gone to, the friends I've made, the things I've learnt, the work ethic it's taught me. That's the gift of the podcast, to me at least. And now it's helped you, it's also a big gift. So, yeah. Maybe I'll just wrap it up here, because I don't want to take too much of your time. I just wanted to take this moment for me to do something for me, and also share it with you guys, something that's important to me, and sharing your reflections that came up that wasn't scripted. So hopefully they've been useful in some way. And I just want to thank you again for listening. I deeply appreciate it. I say that at the beginning of every episode, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. I hope the podcast continues to inspire and help you and be a light in your own darkness, if we go there. That was the original kind of mission of the podcast, to be a light in someone's darkness, something like that. So I hope the podcast continues to do that for people. Okay, I'm back in the car. Finished the hike. It's about 4 hours all around. Really nice to get out. Really tired now. But I just wanted to add this at the end to say, in that form that I mentioned, I'll add another question, which is, what's been your favourite episode you've heard? Because I think that will help me. One, I'm curious, and two, I'll see if there's themes and patterns of what really resonates with people. And I think that, along with your topic suggestions, will really help me tailor the podcast for the next couple of years for you guys. So thanks a lot, and speak soon. Thank you for listening to this week's podcast, and thank you to our Patreons who helped make this episode possible. And if you would like to find out more about Patreon and the rewards and benefits, then there will be a link in the episode description. If you enjoy the OCD Stories podcast and would like to support us, please subscribe and rate the show wherever you listen to the podcast. And thank you to NoCD for supporting our work. If you want to find out more about NoCD, you can click the link in the episode description. And quick disclaimer, guys, this podcast is not therapy. It is not a replacement for therapy. Please seek treatment from a trained professional. And until we speak, take care.